Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with pink eye chicken. That's right, I believe this is the first recipe we're ever doing from Laos. Although depending on who you talk to, this recipe actually might be Canadian. Okay, I'm not exactly sure. But what I am sure about is that pink eye translates to grilled chicken, which means the name of this recipe is actually grilled chicken chicken. Which sounds kind of funny, but actually is very appropriate, since this stuff is at least twice as good as your average grilled chicken recipe. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by grinding up some whole black peppercorns, which I'm going to do by hand so I can get the exact coarseness I want, and also sneak in a little bit of cardio work. But whether you do this by hand, or use a grinder, or a spice mill, we're going to want to freshly grind this right before we use it. And also, we do want to leave it kind of coarse. And when I was finished grinding mine, it looked a little something like this. And once that's set, we can move on to the second major flavor component, which would be a huge amount of freshly chopped cilantro. And if you're one of these people that's good at noticing things, you'll see that we did not remove the stems. All right, as far as cilantro goes, the stems and leaves taste pretty much the same. And for a marinade like this, we can just go ahead and chop everything up together. Oh, and by the way, if your crew does not like cilantro and will mutiny if you use it, you can, if you want, use some other herbs. I mean, you are, after all, the Captain Bligh of this pink guy. And in the blog post, I will tell you what other herbs to use instead. But anyway, we'll go ahead and chop that up fairly small, at which point we can move on to the part of the recipe where we throw everything in a bowl, including what most non-Americans would call our chopped coriander. And then we'll also toss in our freshly ground black pepper and some oyster sauce, which is basically sort of an extra thick, extra savory, sort of Swedish soy sauce that, yes, does actually have some oyster in it. We're also going to add some soy sauce, as well as some Asian fish sauce, which, if you want to be a real food wisher, is a mandatory ingredient in your pantry. And then we will finish up with a little bit of vegetable oil, as well as a few shakes of cayenne. And that's it. We will stir this together. And our kind of unusual looking, but very effective marinade is done. And ready to flavor about 2 to 3 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs. So we'll go ahead and add those in. And then using our bare hands, we will massage this until we're sure those pieces are very, very well coated. Okay, when it comes to chicken thighs, not only do we have to worry about the nooks and crannies, but we also have lots of cracks and crevices. So I really want you to get in there and get in there deep and work this until we have complete and absolute coverage. At which point we'll stop and clean off our hands, as well as around the top of the bowl. And then what we'll do is go ahead and wrap this up and let it marinate in the fridge for anywhere between 4 and 12 hours. Okay, in a pinch, you could probably do it for a little less time, but if you can, try to give it at least 4 hours. But either way, we'll go ahead and pop that in the fridge until we're ready to grill. Speaking of which, at some point before we do head to the grill, we're going to want to make our dipping sauce, which for me is going to include some seasoned rice vinegar, as well as some freshly squeezed lime juice. And then we'll also put in a very generous amount of crushed garlic, and a nice big spoon of sambal chili sauce, or really any kind of hot sauce, or you could even do some minced fresh chilies. We will also splash in a little bit of fish sauce, as well as some freshly chopped cilantro. And then, since this is supposed to be a rather sweet sauce, I'm going to go ahead and add a good amount of honey, which, by the way, is not typical. All right, what they usually serve with this chicken is a sugar syrup that's flavored with these other ingredients. And I'm not talking about a little bit of sugar. I'm talking about like a half a cup for this size batch. So while this is going to be a fairly sweet sauce, it is nowhere close to the original. But I think very delicious nonetheless. And that's it. As soon as we mix that up, we'll simply keep that refrigerated until our chicken's grilled, which is exactly what we're going to do next. So we'll go ahead and pull our chicken out of the fridge and unwrap it and grab some tongs. And that's it. Believe it or not, this is ready to go straight onto the grill. And ideally, those grill grates are sitting over some beautiful hot red glowing coals. And we will go ahead and place our chicken on. And I generally like to lay the flatter side down first, but it probably doesn't matter that much either way. And what we'll do is grill these for about 5 to 6 minutes per side, or until just cooked through. All right, boneless, skinless chicken thighs cook a lot faster than people think. I mean, pretty much about the same amount of time as a chicken breast. All right, just because this is dark meat does not mean it has to cook a lot longer. So I gave that first side about 5 minutes and then flipped them over. And then let me give you one little bit of a heads up here. Whenever we grill something that came straight from a wet marinade, it can tend to sometimes stick a little bit. Okay, so with some of these, you might have to give the underside a little scrape with the tongs to make sure they're released before you try to flip it over. But having said that, I didn't have much of an issue. And I went ahead and flipped those over and gave the other side about 5 minutes. And of course, use a thermometer to check if you want. But once they go from feeling mushy to sort of firm and springing back to the touch, they're usually done, which mine were. So I went ahead and pulled those off the grill onto a plate. And I really lucked out here, since somehow all the best looking pieces ended up on the top. I mean, what are the odds? But no matter how you pile these up, you're going to be looking at a very impressive plate of grilled chicken. And while I will plate up a couple of these in a minute and serve it with our dipping sauce, I just cannot resist going straight in for a taste, which really was incredible. All right, slightly smoky, slightly sweet, very savory, and a little bit funky, with the heat from our black pepper punching through nicely. That, my friends, is just some incredible tasting grilled chicken. And that's without our sweet and garlicky dipping sauce, which really does elevate this even further. So I plated some up next to a cucumber salad and proceeded to start slicing and dipping. And because of those smoky, salty, savory, peppery elements I just described, this simple, sweet, garlicky sauce is just absolutely perfect. And other than wishing I had a little bit of rice under this, I don't think I could have enjoyed this anymore. But anyway, that's it. My take on Pingai chicken. A dish so nice they named part of it twice. And as far as I know, this is the first Laotian recipe ever to appear on Food Wishes. Unless, like I said earlier, it's actually Canadian. But regardless, you cannot have enough interesting, easy, and delicious grilled chicken recipes in the repertoire. Which is why I really do hope you give this a try soon. So head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.